So the first thing we have to do in order to stand up to those dangerous authoritarian populists is to fight them in elections. We've seen in many countries that once they're in power, they can do tremendous damage. And when they're first up for re-election, the opposition still retains a realistic, though probably no longer even chance of beating them. Once populists have been re-elected a couple of times, they manage to skew the playing field so much through illiberal measures that it becomes essentially impossible for the opposition to displace them through free and fair elections. And so in the short run, standing up to them at the polling booth, uniting the opposition, running the strongest candidates, everybody getting involved makes a huge difference. But there's also long-term factors that I've outlined. So we also have to make sure that elites, for example, actually take seriously that they need to ensure that ordinary citizens see economic improvements, because it is in their existential interest to ensure that's the case, to have a stable political and economic system. We need to make sure that we fight for a truly multi-ethnic democracy, which in my mind means an inclusive patriotism, in which rather than abusing nationalism in order to exclude some people, as the political right does, or running away from patriotism altogether, which part of the left are increasingly tempted to do, we actually fight for the interpretation of what it means to be American, or Italian, or German, or Swedish, depending on which country you're in. And the third is that we can't beat back social media. We can't censor it effectively. I don't think that works. There certainly has to be more regulation, but it's never going to quite contain the freedom that we have on those platforms, and nor should it. But we can actually fight for our political values. We haven't taken seriously in the last decades teaching students civics, telling them about the values of our political system, trying to transmit those from one generation to the next. Doing that is not going to be a panacea, but it is certainly something that's going to make a difference, and we should recommit ourselves to our values and to the task of communicating them in a very new way. So look, I can't promise anybody a happy end, but we have a lot of agency. We still have the luck and the privilege to live in societies in which we're not threatened with going to jail for speaking up and for organizing. And so together we have quite a lot of impact we can make, and it's our duty to use that freedom now in order to preserve it for all of us in the long run.